All right. Hello and welcome to everybody who's joining me on live right now. If you're watching this under replay, hit hashtag replay and ask your questions along those lines later on. So welcome everybody. I'm actually here. It's a special edition of one of my many lives that I do, and today we're going to be talking about the Leadership Challenge, and we're going to be talking about this on a regular basis for the next couple of weeks. Looking at some of the challenges that leaders are facing and how we're facing them and that sort of thing. And I'm joined with some really cool people from all the way around the world. We've kind of come together this Thursday afternoon here in Perth, and we're going to be going deep into some digital leader, or not just digital, rather. Sorry, I've got a one track mind there. About leadership in the age that we're in now, amongst the chaos and that sort of thing. So I'm joined by Scott Kundhill, all the way from Bali, Trevor Nell from South Africa, and Ivan Anderson as well from South Africa also. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe just quickly, let's have a quick little rundown of who you are and how you see leadership kind of as an opening statement, and then we'll start our discussion from there. Scott, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Doyle, all the way from Bali. So for me, leadership has now had to go beyond the realms of your current colleagues at work. So we've always thought of leadership as being, how do I impress my bosses or the board of directors or my work colleagues or the people on the same level of me and slightly higher. That's not changed. You now need to have a reputation in the industry or through other job titles. You need to be known across all the HR directors in the industry. You need to be known across the construction industry. You need to have a reputation that transcends your existing organization. And how to do that is something that we'll be discussing in the masterclass, of course. I related very much to Kung Fu. I'll talk a lot about my Kung Fu achievements and how what sound like very kind of esoteric ideas like the movement creates the power and be a waterfall. It sounds all very esoteric, but how that actually has specific roles to play within the leadership environment and how you as an individual leader need to go beyond your own organization. I mean, Trevor Nell, he's known all around the world, not just at his bowls club. He's known all over the place now. He's got a great reputation across the planet, and not just in his specific group of people. The same with Ivan Anderson. Sally, who's not here today, she'll be at the masterclass. Sally Anderson, she's known. I mean, my gosh, she's one of the best reputations of any high-end leadership coach that you can imagine. So it's taking that reputation and expanding it to a whole new group of people.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We've got some amazing things planned coming up in September, as you mentioned, and it's a matter of just sort of, we want to outline some of the issues and some of the things that we're thinking about now to kind of get us to that point in September as well, because that's when we're going to be sort of bringing it all together. We've got some other leaders from around the world who are going to be joining in as well. Unfortunately, we couldn't all make it today, but we've got sort of everybody here that, I was going to say the ones that are important. No, I didn't mean it that way, but we're here with everybody who can right now. So we really want to kind of get into this. And we want to, like I said, discuss the key challenges that leaders face today based on the environment, the business, the culture, the economies around the world, and that sort of thing. So thank you, Scott. Trevor, let's get a quick little intro for you. And what do you think about leadership chaos right now, or leadership in the times of chaos right now?
Yeah, well, look, as a South African and having been in the leadership game for well over 50 odd years in various enterprises, most of them developed by myself, and some into large enterprises and projects that number into the billions in their revenue production and total transaction value. We've been through it all here in South Africa. One of the things, as I was listening to Scott there, Scott almost gives the impression, and I think very many people think that leadership could be a glorious game. I want to be there. I want to connect with everyone. It's exciting to be out on the stage and all that sort of thing. Listen, what I know, it's the loneliest place to be when you have the rug pulled out from under you and your company, and your executive suite is looking at you for taking the final decision that's actually going to rescue them. And I think as much as we live in a world of what seems to be total crisis and chaos, which I hope we'll discuss various elements. At this particular point, those of us that have been around for a long time through all of the dips know there's excitement around the corner. But I also want to point out that leadership is one of the loneliest places to be if you're not able to actually bounce off ideas with people who understand what you are going through.
Yeah, no, fantastic, Trevor. Leadership is a lonely place, but we kind of need to be able to have those tools and capabilities to reach out, because I think we solve problems together, right? As well as we get into this. So thank you, Trevor. Ivan, give us a little intro about yourself and your position on the leadership challenge right now.
Great, thanks, Doyle. Yeah, and yeah, good morning to everyone from South Africa. It's great to be here and great to be amongst people who think like this. And I think that's the key for me. One of the real challenges in leadership today is to find a group of people who can challenge the way you think, who can actually really tap into areas that you might not have thought about before. Challenge your paradigms, challenge your current structures, challenge your current methodologies, because at the end of the day, the last 18 months, if it's taught us anything, I think it's a blip on the radar in many ways going forward. It's been a massive change for the world. Let's not diminish that fact, but I think it's going to be a blip on the radar. The world now has to change. The world of business has to change. The way we engage has to change. And so now we've got all these different things coming at us from all these different directions. So how do we deal with that? We've got to find the time, and Scott touched on a couple of elements from his Kung Fu side of things. Trevor touched on the loneliness aspect of it. But for me, it comes down to really quality systems and processes and getting the complexity away from the people and the drudgery of day-to-day activities away from the people, and allowing your people to sit back and actually really think, to distill ideas, to really digest what's going on around them and clear the clutter out. And I think that's, we've had a lot of clutter thrown at us in the last 18 months specifically, and we need to actually sweep that off the table and say, right, we're in a new situation, we're in a new paradigm. How do we actually move forward cohesively? And that's one of the real big challenges for me, I think, in the way going forward, is leadership has to change. The modus operandi of leadership has to change. You're dealing with a population, whether it be in your organization or in your community or in your country, that has been really had the rug ripped out from underneath their feet, and people need quality leadership. So, where do you go to get that?
No, yeah, absolutely. Excellent concepts there, Ivan. And we really want to kind of dig into these. So let's kind of ask the first question. And for those who are watching live or replay, please love to hear your answers and your responses as well as we get into this. It's meant to be kind of like a forum of how do we see these challenges, and then how do we act upon them as well. So what do you guys think is sort of the biggest leadership challenge that we're facing right now? Like, if we roll the clock back, I think in January of 2020, we were thinking that there was going to be another global financial crisis, a global recession. Now, we obviously have been in that age of COVID as well, but what do businesses face every day, and what should businesses concern themselves as the biggest challenge, and how are we going to be able to resolve it? So, Scott, would you love to start?
Yes, I think the fact that you can no longer cover up your decisions when they go wrong. You make a mistake, you take full accountability. And I think that is where the pressure is. There's no more of this, oh yes, but the data kind of showed this and I was kind of led, or that. No, you need to be accountable. You as a leader need to make a decision, and you need to stand up for those decisions. And as Trevor said, that is one of the loneliest places that you can be. But to be perfectly honest, it's the only place that you could be as a leader. You need to be able to be accountable for those decisions, and you need to be able to make those decisions in the first place. Because of course, in order to be a great leader, you have to make decisions. And if you're deliberately procrastinating on making decisions because you are worried about that accountability, nothing's getting done, and the company is starting to actually become a bit of a cesspool of emotional conflict. You need to stand up and make those decisions and be accountable for them and expect all the consequences of your actions.
Fascinating. Yeah, accountability is a huge part of that. Excellent. What about yourself, Ivan? Or actually, let's jump back to Trevor. Trevor, what do you think? What is the biggest challenge that we face, and how can we resolve it, or that business leaders face?
Not having a crystal ball, Dol.
What? You don't have one? Where's yours? I'll ship one out to you.
Yeah. Listen, so
I have a Stratahedron.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, do you have a crystal ball Stratahedron?
There it is.
Okay, Stratahedron. All right, so there's a little secret that's about to come to the marketplace. Okay, but we won't share it now, I'm sure. But listen, I think, and you know what, you're from the great land of Australia, and that land gave us the black swan, right? I think it came out of Australia and Tasmania. Go and have a look at the black swan.
The what? Sorry, the black
swan. You see, even the guys in Australia hasn't seen one. The black swan.
It's in Perth.
They're in Perth. Yeah. No, I've seen lots of them.
And really, the black swan event is what has affected business in a big way. And there have been many that have happened around the world, and we can actually see hints of black swans procreating all around the world. And those black swans are perhaps things like the environmental crisis. I mean, COVID, what that's done to business. How'd you like to be a leader of a tourism business or an airline business, or over the last 18 months to 2 years, and you didn't foresee the total lockdown? How'd you like to have been the leader of a conference business or an international speaker that was used to traveling around the world, going to these conferences? Overnight, your business was just taken away, and everyone that was in the subset of those businesses were completely annihilated. And as a result, mental well-being of your staff complements, your employees, all the way down from the top head honcho through the executive suite, through to every management level, through to every frontline level. And then what about your stakeholders, your service providers? What about your consumers? What about, the impact of black swan events can wipe out a business overnight, and it has done. And now we're sitting here in South Africa. We've just had a black swan event that absolutely has stressed out people in South Africa, and that was the riots and unrest in KwaZulu-Natal, where 167 major businesses were completely attacked and looted and burnt down. Who would have foreseen that, given the great excitement that we had in 1994 with a new political dispensation, complete democratic control of a country going forward? Now we have to take the clues. These things are happening more and more. And I go back to 9/11. I just go back to the beginning of this year with the attack on the Capitol in the White House, and not in the White House, in the Senate. And then we've got to start looking around. Fires in Greece, fires in Algeria, fires in Algeria, Italy. Right now. Wiping out.
So how does a business, though, kind of decide that this is something that's important? And how do they kind of, because look, we can't deal with all, I'll be honest, we can't deal with all the world's problems, but how can we decide that, okay, yeah, I understand, I get it. Where should we be focusing then as a business leader? I realize, that some of the businesses are heavily impacted, but what can the business leader do amongst this chaos? What do you think, Trevor?
All right. Well, I'm going to say it's, and this is the essence of what we're going to be doing on the Thursday. We're going to go into a collaborative discussion, but some of the points we're going to discuss is when you bring a group of really thinking strategists, business leaders together, just one idea can completely change the way you actually operate your business. And as I was talking, I was saying, you know what, business is a blooming zoo out there. Perhaps what we need is a zookeeper within our environment that's continually looking out for these dangerous black swans that have been sent to us from Perth, Australia, you see.
But the zookeeper, can we make the leap that the zookeeper is kind of the leader, the business owner, the leader, whatever? No? Okay, who's the zookeeper then?
No, as the leader, I feel sorry for the leaders, and I'm saying you need.
Oh, do you mean, so you're meaning political leaders? Is that what you mean?
No.
What do you mean then?
Don't ask me to give all the solutions right now. I'm gonna tell you there's a particular strategy that you can adopt. I'm
not asking for a strategy. I'm just who are the zookeepers then?
No, I think as leaders in the macro environment have to understand you need critical people who have got their eyes on the various crystal balls. We are juggling a ton of balls, and you need to actually have individuals that are part of your leadership team. That's why the executive suite is so important, that they are focused on that while you're looking at that crystal ball, they've got their eye on this one, and you're preempting situations. But that's something we can discuss, and it's very much Ivan's field: systems and process management and enterprise management. I'm not going to steal his thunder.
That's okay. No, thank you, Trevor. Really appreciate that. Just Ivan, I'll get you to answer that question as well coming up, but I just wanted to post some comments. Discussions are entirely based on the validity of data. That was, Trevor, when you were talking earlier, I believe. Unfortunately, we can't actually see who that is for these ones, but we do have Louise Mowbray, who does have a comment. Trevor, 100%. So good job, Trevor. And then Louise made a statement as well. Clem Sumter and others have expected riots for some time on the many events that have been expected but seem improbable, so we ignored them. Interesting.
I agree.
I did ask my mother to listen in, and I want to thank her for the Trevor 100% comment.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
This one. Yeah. All right, cool. And thanks, Louise, as well. Yeah.
On Louise's comment, if you don't mind, very quickly, and just going to Trevor before we hand over to Ivan. So what Louise is something I agree with. And when we talk about this notion of accountability, it's very easy to say, oh, it was a black swan event. Who could have ever predicted this? It's not my fault. I think some events are blacker than others. And I think that some of these should be at least have been predicted. And I say this, I have been online using virtual meetings long before COVID. I have an international group of employees and subcontractors long before COVID. For me, something like this, the world was changing. It couldn't sustain itself anymore. So I'm not saying that I predicted these events. I agree with you, Trevor. They are black swan up to a point, but I think some of them are blacker than others.
Yeah, and there's the concept of gray swans too. And actually, I'm part of a group out of the US and Canada called the Gray Swan Guild, where we're kind of looking at sort of, it is more a shade of gray. I mean, yes, there are black swans, but we did have, as Scott was saying, we did have a pretty good idea that we were going to come across something like this. We didn't know when, we didn't know how, we didn't know where, but it was within that realm of possibility too. So we kind of have to, I guess, be more aware of that gray area that defines it a little bit broader. Trevor, you had something, and then I'll jump to Ivan.
Yep. It's not about predicting them. It's about having a formulation or a formula for preparing for them in the eventuality of, because we don't know what they are. But what is that formula for preparation for these events? And that's what we're going to be discussing on the day.
E equals MC squared.
Don't give all that.
It's a formula for everything. Thanks, Trevor. All right, Ivan. So what do you see as the biggest challenge for leaders that we're facing amongst everything, all the chaos, and how do we resolve it?
Yeah, thanks, Doyle, and thanks, Scotty and Trevor. I think you've actually put some context around these things and created a lot of confusion and noise. And I think we've got to get rid of all of that. Come on, you guys. What we need is a bit of we need a bit of clarity. We need a bit of structure. We need a bit of process. And I think somebody said their discussions are entirely based on the validity of data. Well, what data is valid any longer? The data that was valid 24 months ago is no longer valid. Things have just completely changed. So you've got to look at how do you clean that up? How do you actually eradicate these outliers and this noise that has been formed around all of this and really bring it back to the basics? Yeah, I agree 100%. Scenario planning, Clem Santa, is one of the world leaders from a scenario planning perspective. And we've got to get into that. Trevor's just sent me a private comment here. Clarity of disinformation. I think that's one of the big problems.
That's cheating,
There's
Trevor.
so much disinformation. There's so much disinformation going on the rounds, and if you're following the media, if you're following the social media, it can get incredibly confusing. Who's actually telling the truth? What is the truth? And so it's getting into a situation where these thoughts, these paradigms can be challenged and really taken down to their essence. Is this relevant? Isn't it relevant? If it's not relevant, get rid of it. Forget about it. Don't even look at it. Get down to what actually is completely relevant to your business and say, okay, so we have now 20 months of really odd data that we've got to deal with. So what do we do if it happens again? How do we actually, Scotty's touched on some of those elements. I think globalization, getting your team around the world, getting a team around the world, getting people virtual, getting these sort of things. Does this apply to my business? How does a factory do that? Very difficult, in some of it.
Definitely.
I see we've got some other comments up there coming, test it,
I was going to post. So,
these are interesting challenges that we've got to deal with, but at times you've got to deal with it in the constraints of what your current business can actually carry, what your capacities are, what your resources are, what your flexibility is, and how do you actually deal with those elements and look to adapt. We're really in an age of adapt or die, I think, and we've got to actually work within those parameters.
No, for sure. I agree. We have to kind of understand the problem, and I'd love to know. I can't actually see the name, so test it. Obviously, you want to be able to test it. So thank you for that. If you did want to just put your name as a comment, then we can see who it is, or you can stay anonymous. That's totally fine as well. And then data needs to be transparent. And actually, Louise is part of the Grey Swan Guild as well. So we were sort of looking at how do we identify potential gray swans down in the future as well. So all right. So look, we wanted to keep this fairly short and concise. So unfortunately, we only got to the first question, but we have kind of gone past our time. So what that means is that I think we'll have a lot for discussion on the next time around as well as we get into this and as we explore this. So I'd love for everybody to kind of just a quick little round robin of what we can do quickly. 30 seconds. What's your plan moving forward for dealing with this leadership challenge that we're facing, and how we can actually harness it? So 30 seconds, quick. Scott, you're first.
For me, we harness it by being individual leaders that go beyond our initial scope of our traditional environment. So right now we're seen as leaders within our organization. We need to be seen as leaders in our industry and outside of our organization. And usually that means doing some kind of good, being seen as an industry leader, as being tackling a particular issue that doesn't just affect your company, it affects everybody around you and those individuals. We can't be seen as leaders within our own organizations anymore. If you really want to take yourself to the next level, my opinion, you must be seen as a leader in your industry or beyond just merely the confines of your own organization.
Perfect. Well said. So lead bigger than yourself. Could I summarize it like that?
Woo! Doyle, that you're a master. What a great line.
Hey, that's my one-liner.
Yes, I love that. Lead bigger than yourself. I like it.
Cool. Trevor, what about yourself? 30-second summary.
Well, what I've got out of this is I'm excited about thinking of discussing the 50 Shades of Grey Swans. So I think there's going to be some exciting opening up of the many, many different rocks that lie in a rapid. And so from there, for those that don't know, I'm a canoeist, I shoot rapids, have done all my life, and I know exactly the lines I've got to pick, and I also know that those rocks jump up and hit your canoe when you least expect it, and what have you got to do? Those are the things that we're going to discuss from a business perspective.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Trevor. Ivan.
Great, thanks. Yeah, now I know why rapids are becoming extinct. Trevor keeps on shooting them, but yeah, you know, I think at the end of the day, you know, leaders have to get out of their silos, get out of their boxes, and realize that you know, leadership is all about, you know, finding ways to actually cross-pollinate, finding ways to actually engage across industries, across styles, across you know, barriers, across continents, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. Leadership, I think, has to radically change. I think it has been changing, but it's been changing gradually up until now. I think the last 20 months have created a situation where radical change now needs to occur, and some of those elements have been touched on today.
Yeah, no, excellent. Thank you, Ivan. Yeah, I mean, cross-pollination is very key, and to me, that's what's really important here, is that we kind of have to get outside of our bubbles and see what else other people are doing as well. So having even just a discussion like this is great, because we can have, you know, perspectives from around the world. We can see what the challenges are, and they can be very, very poignant and very destructive in some cases as well. So I think what Scott said too was having, you know, those tools, and he's been doing online similar to myself for quite some time. So I think we have to kind of elevate ourselves too, in terms of, okay, well, we can't necessarily see the exact future, but we can kind of see that where we're kind of being pushed or moving or prodded or whatever the case may be. And we kind of have to act upon that. So kind of my sort of take from our whole discussion is we need to see, but we also need to act as well. So I just wanted to summarize with that. And in terms of, actually, we got another comment here, test it, just before we close off. Just curious about the continents. I'm wondering if he means like the continents of the earth. Is that what you're meaning, LinkedIn user?
It was flat last I heard.
Yeah, I don't know if this person was reading my mind, but you know, we were going to touch on critical chaos and crisis points. I mean, you've got to be looking at what's happening in Asia. You've got to be having a look at what's happening in China. You've got to have a look at the autocracy of forces building up, military forces, and what's happening in Afghanistan, and what's happening in Europe, and what's happening with immigrant migration. You don't think these things affect your business? They do big time, because they're in your dining room every single day, every single night when you put your TV on. So every continent has a touch paper that could blow up overnight, that could affect other continents. I wonder if that's what the individual that put that comment was in there. And I was thinking, man, this goes so blooming fast here. That's why we need a day to actually get to these, and actually
that's coming up.
The formulas we have. Yep.
Yeah, no, cool. Thank you, Trevor, and great insight as well. And yeah, it does affect you. It's kind of like what they call, well, the butterfly effect or whatever, or the ripples, where what you do or what happens here kind of affects you eventually over time. So thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who's attended and asked questions. Really appreciate it. We want to close off with just what's coming in September. We have the Wisdom's Global Leadership Masterclass. And Ivan, can you give us a quick 20-second rundown of what that is and what they can do next?
Absolutely. Thanks, Doyle. Yeah, it's I think it's a one-of-a-kind event. And certainly we believe it's a one-of-a-kind event. You know, talk about the continents. We're covering the continents. So we've got somebody from New Zealand, Sally Anderson. We've got somebody from Australia, Perth, Doyle Bueller. We've got somebody from Bali, Scott Kundal. We've got people from South Africa. We've got somebody from the UK, Kim Adele Platts. You know, we're bringing together this unique grouping of people who will challenge you, to think, who will challenge you to reframe, who will challenge you to look at your business and your leadership style in a completely different way. So we challenge you, get involved, you know, join us on that leadership masterclass, join us on these events as we go forward over the next few weeks leading up to the 23rd of September. So put that date in your diary, 23rd of September, Wisdom's Global Leadership Masterclass. If you're a leader, if you know where your business is going. If you don't know where your business is going, you can't afford to miss it. Just join us then.
Yeah, to give you those insights and that understanding and wisdom as well. At the end of the day, that's what we all need. And we all need those little tools and those little insights to be able to help us accomplish more. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for our audience for watching. Again, if you have questions or if you'd like to add to the discussion, please just hashtag replay in the comments, and one of us will go through and answer the questions as well. So without further ado, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me. And we hope to see you guys, our audience, and everybody else, maybe a few more next Thursday as well. So take care, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys online.
Thanks so much, Darrell.